We want to send some of those monthly financial stresses packing this August with your chance to be mortgage or rent-free for 12 whole months. We'll give you a cash lump sum that equals 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to an amazing £20,000. We'll also throw in an extra £5,000 on top of that for good measure. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Standing in, of course, for Ben Leo tonight.
They're putting them not just in hotels, but they're putting them in HMOs in our community. No one will listen to us about our concerns for our children.
Many more migrant hotel protests took place across the United Kingdom today, but of course, not everyone wants the asylum seekers to be evicted.
I don't blame them. I blame a lot of the politicians who aren't sitting down with these folks and us together in a room to have a good discussion, because I've gone across the road and chatted to them and we've had a civil conversation.
Oh boy, the police have been so busy today, haven't they? They've arrested over 300 people backing Palestine action in the protest outside the Houses of Parliament, and our brilliant reporter Doogie Beattie was right in the thick of it.
Why would these young people be brought into this?
Why do you think?
Sir, I in Northern Ireland, 25 years of troubles, and they forgot them. They forgot them at the end of it. And Palestine Action is actually a prescribed terrorist organisation.
Yeah, we're going to be joined by Doogie for his take on this dramatic day in central London. And it's 100 days since Reform swept to power in councils across the country. But as they plot their route to power after the next general election, is Nigel Farage right that Reform's biggest enemy will be themselves? And joining me this evening, former Labour Special Advisor Paul Richards, former Police Scotland Yard Detective Peter Blexley, and journalist Linda Jubilee. My panel will tell me everything about what's going on this week, including their biggest fails of the week, and find out what on earth was going on here.
We spoke to the Coast Guard twice. The first time they contacted us was asking us if we'd seen an orange dinghy that was in trouble, bobbing about, I think was the expression.
Yes, welcome to Ben Leeds tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. We start with some breaking news that's just dropped in the last few moments. Greater Manchester Police has said it is investigating the complaint by GB News reporter Sophie Reaper that she was struck on the head while trying to interview anti-racism protesters. She was, of course, broadcasting live from a stand-up to racism protest near the Cresta Hotel in Altrincham, Cheshire, last night when the incident happened. Greater Manchester Police have said, "We are investigating reports of an assault at around 6:45 p.m. on Church Street, Altrincham last night. Inquiries into the incident are currently ongoing." Right, well, interesting stuff there. We'll hear more about that throughout the show. But importantly, as Stand Up to Racism and the far left are out counter-protesting, and you've seen all the footage just there across the country, and agitating concerned local people today, I think it's time we remind them why so many ordinary people are waking up and taking a stand. Syrian asylum seeker Mohammed Wahid. Mohammed, 22, sentenced to 12 years for raping a 12-year-old girl above a Birmingham shop, grooming her with crisps and vapes. A Congolese migrant, Anisit Melea, 41, handed 10 years and 10 months for raping a 15-year-old girl, leaving her pregnant. He'd been granted asylum after dodging deportation multiple times. And Afghan asylum seeker Sadiq Nigzad, 29, locked up for 9 years, plus an extended licence for raping a 15-year-old schoolgirl in broad daylight in Falkirk, claiming cultural differences as his defence while shouting abuse at the judge. Iranian asylum seeker Hamid Kianpana, sentenced to 9 years for rape, straight out of a taxpayer-funded hotel. Asylum seeker Klarim Kujak, 30, got 18 months for running a cannabis farm. The ethnic Albanian who was raised in Serbia and moved to the UK aged 13, granted leave to remain after claiming he forgot how to speak Serbian. Walid Mohammed and Yusuf Ahmed, sentenced to 40 and 45 months for a brutal assault that left shattered bones of innocent victims. Afghans Zamal Khan and Zishan Bangist each got 3 years in the clink, and Saifa Rahman Ahmadzadi 10 years for human trafficking and sexually abusing boys in a network that smuggled thousands. So much for being vulnerable refugees seeking asylum. These are just some of the 312 so-called asylum seekers charged with 708 offences last year. These sentences show the rot runs deep, with foreigners overrepresented in sex crimes by up to 3.5 times. Borders in our country are wide open, aren't they? Vetting is a joke, and our kids and women are paying the price for this. This wasn't just a list. It is a crisis exploding in the faces of British people and a failed asylum setup, dumping unvetted, dangerous men into neighbourhoods up and down this country. And after all of that, the far left were out yesterday defending the ongoing crisis and spinning this into a racism campaign when it's nothing about that. It's about protecting women and girls. Yesterday, our GB News reporter Sophie Reaper was assaulted live on air by some far-left thugs holding paid for, in my opinion, stand up to racism placards and Palestine flags, which police say they are now investigating. She was swarmed for simply crossing the road to interview them at an Altrincham demo. So much for the Be Kind left. Prime Minister Keir Starmer, you are quick to blast far-right thuggery every opportunity you can. But far-left mobs attacking journalists and agitating locals across the country? Well, you've got crickets there, haven't you? Even when local Labour groups, people in your own party, are engaging with these far-left groups, none of the Labour top brass have had anything to say. Well, I wonder why. The GB News reported live from protests outside hotels in Liverpool and Solihull today. Salman Mirza from Stand Up to Racism told our reporter Jack Carson why he took part in the pro-migrant demonstration in Solihull.
I don't blame them. I blame a lot of the politicians who aren't sitting down with these folks and us together in a room to have a good discussion, because I've gone across the road and chatted to them and we've had a civil conversation. And no, I haven't convinced them yet, but I'm optimistic that over a period of time we can work together. I mean, these hotels, nobody was using them. They were hemorrhaging financially, and I'm not happy that these hotels are being used. Neither are the asylum seekers. They want the right to work. You know, I've been part of different campaigns where we're saying, look, you know, if somebody's claiming asylum, give them the right to work. They want agency in their life. They want to pay back to this community who's given them sanctuary. Who wouldn't?
OK, well, it's been a weekend of protest, hasn't it? Let's get the thoughts of my panel: former Labour Special Advisor Paul Richards, former Scotland Yard detective Peter Bleksley, and journalist Linda Jubilee. Linda, I'd like to start with you. I read that list out there because I feel like parts of the left, not all of the people on the left, by the way, part of the left, and I call them the far left for a reason, have forgotten that there are genuine people who are very concerned. They have seen headlines talking about that list of just a few of those of the crimes that have been committed over the last year, and are concerned. They're concerned.
They're massively concerned because we know that many of the men in the hotels, for example, and some of the men who are living outside in the community come from a completely different cultural background to us, and they regard women, you know, I hate to say it, and someone's going to call me out for this, but they look at women in a completely different light. I know from my work as a foreign correspondent, particularly in the Kosovo crisis in Eastern Europe, that authorities paid close attention to actually parachuting large groups of people into a community was not of their culture. It's a very dangerous thing to do. We have acknowledged that for decades, and now we have it going on in our midst. And the problem is, and my family comes from an area of West London where they've seen these hotels grow and grow and grow over years, that no one paid attention to any of these people, and that's what's brought it to boiling point.
Paul, you know, look, I don't want the point here to be that all people who come here illegally are rapists and commit crimes, because not all of them do. But there is a right for local people to feel concerned. We have seen, in my opinion, Epping was a perfect example of people from the far left being bussed in with paid-for signs. They're not from the local area, and I believe they were just agitating local people. Surely, in a democracy, we need local people to be able to express their opinion without outside agitators in order to make sure there's some change in their local areas.
I think that's true on both sides. So there are agitators on the far left and on the far right who want this to be a summer of rioting and trouble for their own political purposes. You've listed a series of terrible crimes, each of which I believe led to conviction.
That's right. Yeah.
And so the criminal justice system is doing its job, and these people should be arrested, as all people should be if they assault women or commit these types of crime. The sign that it looks like somebody was brandishing that hit Sophie on the head had socialist worker written at the top of it. From the optics I've seen, the police will go over this with a fine-tooth comb, and that tells you something important, which is these stand-up to racism demonstrators, behind that, this is what's known as a front organisation, and behind that is the Socialist Workers' Party, which does not believe in parliamentary democracy, that believes in world revolution and is driven by the ideas of Marx and Lenin. So that's nothing to do with migrants or anything else. They want to bring down
the only thing I will say, Stand Up to Racism is funded partially by trade unions as well, which have links to the Labour Party too, and that local Labour group have supported.
I think there's one or two branches that have sort of subscribed to, because as Lenin said, there are useful idiots that will support this idea. That's what a front organisation is for. It's designed to bring people in who think, well, I don't think we should be quite so hard on this or that, and they get drawn into these activities and then put into the front line of the kind of violence you've seen, and the people organising and running a mile, aren't they? So it'll be very interesting to see what the police end up deciding about the Altrincham assault there on Sophie, because, like I say, the SWP are skilled in this. They've got decades of experience of exploiting genuine concern, and that's what's going on here.
Peter, difficult stuff, isn't it? When you read out that litany of crimes, yes, it might be a small percentage of the people who have come here illegally, but it doesn't matter to local people in their opinion, does it? Because one is too many.
It's really not difficult stuff. It's actually really quite easy if only governments would do their job. In the 1980s, me and my generation were told, don't be racist, accept people with different coloured skin, who've come into this country, embrace them. And you know what? We did. Because they ran our local convenience store, they became sporting icons, they were work colleagues, and by and large, people integrated. But what has happened in recent years? Huge numbers, both people legally and illegally, have come to this country. Unsustainable numbers that have put huge pressures on all our resources. The people that come in these small boats, of course, are a very visible and visceral thing that gets so many people, including me, very annoyed. We did not sign up for this level of immigration, this type of immigration, and this fundamental lack of integration. That's what decent, hard-working people are worried about.
But you all know, Peter, that only 4% of that mass immigration that happened since Brexit is 4% is illegal, of the kind we've seen with these small boats, but 96% of it is legal. And that's post-Brexit, and Brexit was supposed to be about stopping all this happening. So what's gone wrong?
That's a problem too. Can I just say there's a really important point in when I was listening to Salman Mirza's soundbite there. It wasn't the one he used, but I was watching earlier on today. And he mentioned something that I think the British taxpayer should be paying very, very close attention to. The fact of the matter is a lot of these management companies have done a deal with the government to manage these hotels. Now, no hotel that's actually making a good living took up the government contracts, only those that were failing businesses. So what you've got now is the British government effectively, via a middleman, propping up failing businesses.
That's a very good point.
So there are 2 points here. There's the point with the security issues with migrants, but there's also what is happening to our economy while we prop up businesses that actually, you know, and this won't be popular, but actually some of them should go to the wall.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And it's only because of this crisis that many of them are still surviving, as we've seen, as you absolutely correctly said there, Linda. Peter, I just want to draw very, very briefly on what happened yesterday. There's a feeling amongst many people, and many viewers watching, I would have thought too, that feel like the far left are the agitators here, that they are bussed in, that they are the violent ones. We saw, of course, Sophie Reaper, one of our reporters here, was assaulted yesterday. As your experience, of course, going back in the police, is there a sense that there is a political side that's more violent than the other, or are they both as bad as each other on both ends of the spectrum?
Well, I think many hard-working, decent people who are merely expressing concerns about their communities changing shape are lazily and outrageously labelled far-right by idiots like Starmer and his ilk, which is fundamentally incorrect, inaccurate and plain wrong. As for the lunatic left that get bussed in with their pre-printed banners and the such like, I have a rather cheerful result to bring to you. And this result is just in. Metropolitan Police, 365. Palestine Action, 0. That's how many got nicked today for being members of a prescribed organisation. And I am very, very swift to criticise the police when they get it wrong, and they do sadly frequently. But today, Deputy Assistant Commissioner Adi Adelakan and his team, blooming well played.
And that is perfect timing, because we're moving on now. And there was also, of course, off the back of what Peter's saying there, protests outside the House of Parliament today. But as we just heard from Peter, they weren't about migrant hotels, were they? More than 360 people were arrested for supporting banned group Palestine Action. Check out what happened when our reporter Doogie Beattie spoke to one of the protesters.
You know it's a genocide. You accept that?
Sure, there is so many things happening around the world. What I am talking about is these young people sitting beside you.
Well, I'm not a young person. I'm still sat here.
Yeah, but why would these young people be brought into this?
Why do you think?
Sir, in Northern Ireland, 25 years of troubles, and they forgot them. They forgot them at the end of it. And Palestine Action is actually a prescribed terrorist organisation.
But it isn't a terrorist group, is it? They're the opposite of a terrorist group. They're trying to stop terrorism. That's what they are. They're trying to prevent civilians from being massacred. That's the opposite of a terrorist group.
Well, I'm delighted to say the man himself, Doogie, joins me now. Doogie, what an event outside the House of Commons today, Houses of Parliament. I actually had been at one of these Palestine Action protests a few weeks ago when they'd just been prescribed a terrorist group. A lot less people. There was a lot of people there today. Can you want to tell us about it?
Well, there was. There was probably about 1,000 people in around the whole of Parliament Square. But in the middle of it is this square of probably about 400 people sitting down with their placards and protesting. And the police let them sit for quite a while before... I mean, they actually gave them a chance to leave. They could have got up and left and walked through the police lines, but they were determined to sit there and determined to get arrested. And as I said to that man there, I have watched this in Northern Ireland, and an arrest for supporting a prescribed terrorist organisation is something totally different than just Stop Oil and getting a slap on the wrist or getting an arrest on your record. This is serious. This means they cannot... Their education could be affected, any job prospects could be affected, any mortgages could be affected, and most of all, travel could be affected. And the young people that were there were brought in alongside university lecturers, people that were involved in Don't Stop Oil, and it occurred to me at that point that it was almost selfish of them to do it. And the young people were saying to me, no, it won't affect us. It will affect them. There's no doubt it will. And it started off with the police being rather good. They surrounded the whole of Parliament Square, basically a ring of steel around it. And then they started moving in and moving in and moving in. And as it started to get a little bit tasty, the TSG, the London police, came in, and then the Metropolitan Police came in. And when I seen that, and the police go with one facing forward, one facing back, it means they're watching both sides. And it means they're up for trouble. And at that point, they snatched and continued to snatch off the lawn. And it was heartbreaking to watch so many young people who could well tomorrow morning be waking up thinking, I didn't realise that.
Yeah. Again, very similarly, when I was interviewing someone a few weeks ago, I said, do you realise how many years you could spend in prison for this? I'm sure many of them will not serve the I think it's up to 14 years, some of it. I can't remember quite. It's quite serious stuff. Look, the other side of this, Doogie, is a free speech side. Yes. Right? Whether you disagree or agree with the Palestine Action Group and whether they should be prescribed a terrorist organisation, is there an argument to be made that, let's say, if this was a completely opposite government, a far-left government, they said, actually, anyone protesting outside migrant hotels, that is now some sort of prescribed terrorist organisation, right? These pink protests, right? Do you think we're in danger here of advocating for something that we could see a slippery slope to authoritarianism?
No, I don't. I mean, it was ironic that they were outside the House of Commons today. Yeah. I mean, 1688, King William III brings across the Bill of Rights, and in it is religious freedoms, freedoms of speech, effectively what America has adopted and still runs by to this very day. Yeah. And that's what Vance was talking about in Munich when he said, you know, are we on the same page on this? And in it is the right to protest. But when a government looks at an organisation that allegedly breached security inside Britain, then it has to look on a different scale, and it has to say, are you protesting or are you going to hurt the security of our own country? And at that stage, the government has made the right decision to say, we need to look at this. Yeah. And they are allegations, but at all times, protests cannot go too far. And unfortunately, because of the lack of government policy on controlling protests, we have seen Just Stop Oil. We have seen them blocking roads. We have seen Friends of the Earth. We have seen so many things that have got out of hand.
And do you know what, I also blame the previous government for this as well, because they sat on it too. But listen, while we're talking about this, we've got some more breaking news. The Met Police has said, as of 9 p.m. this evening, 466 people had been arrested for showing support for Palestine Action. There were a further 8 arrests for other offences, including 5 assaults on officers. I want to get some quick thoughts off the back of this with the rest of the panel, as well as yourself, Doogie, here. Paul, I was making that point about free speech. Yeah. Up to almost 500 people.
But don't forget, there was a huge pro-Palestine demo going on in London today, not in Parliament Square. Right. So they made a very deliberate choice to go and be arrested for a terrorist offence. They knew, you know, some of them maybe had some ignorance or naivety, but they knew they were going to get arrested in that space because all the people that wanted to support Palestine were marching somewhere else. Tomorrow there's a demo in support of the hostages at 3 o'clock. So that, you know, know, that will go off peacefully as well. You know, and there's a protest outside Parliament every day of the week. You know, so we have the right to protest. We don't have the right to support a terrorist organisation.
Yeah, look, unfortunately, that's all we've got time for this part of the show, but this is going to be ongoing. Doogie, thank you very much for joining me. Panel's going to be with me for the rest of the show today, so thank you all very much for that. Don't forget, I'll bring you tomorrow's front pages as soon as we get them, but up next, I'll ask, should we feel guilty of being British? Well, that's the name of a meeting that civil servants attended which had been branded nonsense by Kemi Badenoch. This has been Leo Tonight with me, Alex Armstrong, only on GB News. Stay tuned for more big things to come.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain. Its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back, everybody. What a show so far. 2 bits of breaking news to already kick off a lively show tonight. Well, His Majesty's Revenue and Customs is facing a severe backlash after putting on a meeting for staff called The Guilt of Being British. The session was aimed at exploring identity and colonial history. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch called it nonsense. And a HMRC spokesman has since said this. This event has rightfully been cancelled, with full focus being on serving our customers day in and day out. Lessons will be learned from this, or will they, will they? Let's see. We are now joined by cultural historian and academic Dr. Philip Kisley and writer and activist Femi Nylander. Femi, I'd like to start with you. HMRC's now backed down from this, saying it was inappropriate perhaps to do it, at least during times when people can't get through to HMRC. It takes them hours to get through. Is it an appropriate use of civil servants' time and taxpayer money?
I mean,
Nazi Germany was to do something which talked about, I mean, obviously, the question whether or not you have collective guilt or not historically is a different question. If you can be proud of being British, if supposedly you can be proud of what the nation has done historically, then of course collectively at the same time you should be able to be guilty of being British. And again, if Nazi Germany can do things to commemorate its own past and its own holocausts, then Britain can do the same to commemorate things that it should be guilty of. It led the slave trade for many centuries. I mean, I can see you shaking your head, but I can also see that you've got a pin on for Free the Hostages in the middle of a genocide for the other commentators. So I'm not going to take you too seriously. Britain's got a lot to be guilty of in terms of what it's doing right now, not just in terms of historically. Britain at the moment is complicit in genocide, it's complicit in war crimes, it's complicit in mass murder of children. So I mean, we can talk about historical guilt, we can talk about present day guilt, and we can do some kind of cultural nonsense where we shake our head and say this is all terrible. But anyone who's more up in arms about this event than the fact that Britain at the very moment is creating bombs that are blowing little kids to pieces just needs to basically look at their own morality.
Okay, Dr. Philip Kisley, I can see you raring to go. I'll just bring you straight in.
Well, I didn't really understand any of that because it was completely incoherent, but there was a lot of stuff about Palestine, but there wasn't one thing about October the 7th. There wasn't one thing about the pogrom, the rape and murder, and there wasn't anything about the fact that Britain stopped Africa indulging in slavery. And Africa, of course, had indulged in slavery for centuries and millennia. Okay, it was just natural to Africans. That's what Africans did. Now, that's what everybody did all around the world. It was 250 years ago. It was in the past. But Britain stopped that, and Britain wasn't the leader in slavery. It stopped slavery. The British Empire was generally a force for good. If we can be coherent for a minute, we can just deal in facts. And so people lived longer under the British Empire. Okay, they were healthier, they were educated, they were cleaner. They were in fact safer. They were much more safer when the British were there. And of course, the British left of their own accord. There was no nonsense. There was no bloodshed. So if you're talking about holocausts, okay, and you're talking about Nazi Germany, that is a false equivalence. There has been no Holocaust. The only recent Holocaust has been October the 7th. The only recent atrocities are the fact that the hostages are still being held. You haven't thought about that because it doesn't really seem to me that you can think. You just gibber on about nonsense and narratives.
So Femi, before we come back, because I want to keep this specifically on what the civil service has done, because I know this conversation can get very, very deep very, very quickly, and I appreciate you've got strong opinions on that, Femi. But I think taxpayers, if you just bring it back to the basic stuff here, right? Basic stuff. Should taxpayers be funding these sorts of things? The HMRC is in crisis. It can't even answer the phone. And you know what? If you want to learn about British guilt, why don't you go on the internet? Why don't you go watch a YouTube video and educate yourself that way? Why is it down to the taxpayer to spend money educating grown adults about history when they learn perfectly enough about it at school these days, and they can go and do the research on their own? This is a good use of taxpayer money. It's a waste of time.
Firstly, any so-called hostage still in Gaza is a member of the military. Therefore, the idea that so the correct term will be prisoners of war. Glad to see that you're muted and you're not able to interrupt me at the moment because it's not incoherent. What you're saying is incoherent. The idea that we can ignore the atrocities which Britain has been playing a part in for the past 2 years, the mass murder of children.
Femi, listen, please, Femi, please, can you answer my question?
Okay, so in terms of, well, I mean, this guy's just ridiculous, but fair enough. I can answer your question. Can you frame it as directly as possible? The specific question you want me to answer. You don't want me to talk about Britain's actual guilt and Britain's actual
the specific question was
this. Why we should be ashamed of things.
Femi, the specific question was very clear. The specific question is this: should taxpayers be funding seminars for grown adults when HMRC itself, phone lines can't be answered for 2 hours a day? The most basic form of this.
Can I respond?
Please.
I'm a taxpayer. I have much more problems with my money going towards making cluster bombs than I have with my money going towards this. I have much more problems with my money funding RAF flights over Gaza currently than I have with my money going towards this. I have much more problems with my money, with many of the things that my taxes go into, i.e. the British industrial war machine, which kills children, than I have with my taxes going into this. Maybe taxpayers shouldn't be funding this, but there's a million things that taxpayers fund before they fund this, which are bigger problems.
All right, let me bring that same question back to you, Dr. Philip Kisley. Should taxpayers be wasting their money educating grown adults who are more than capable of researching this themselves if they want to?
No, of course they shouldn't. This is nonsense. The whole idea of guilt is just performative. This is like Femi, it's narcissistic performativity. I know he's trying to make money out of it, so that's a slightly different thing. But this is, people want guilt, don't they? People have guilt, they carry it. It's kind of a fashion accessory. So if you're guilty about something that never happened and you're creating a narrative that is completely at odds with all the historical facts, then it's great for you because you can be guilty and that makes you interesting and that makes you complicated and you're so empathetic and you're so nice, even though you're actually ignoring the fact that innocent women and children are hostages and all the rest of it that he's just gone. I'm not going to go down that road, okay? But what we have here is an institution, and all our institutions are captured. They are so far away from their core purpose, okay? And it's not just the taxman. You know, this is another reason to hate the taxman. But if you're talking about education, for example, that's a classic example where all of this stuff infects all education. So kids are going in wanting to learn about subjects and wanting to learn about facts and real things, and they're coming out with this ideological gobbledygook. Probably they can string a sentence together, unlike Femi here. At least that, I suppose, is something. But there really is a problem because we are dealing in fantasies here. And if you're you know, the emotional weight of colonialism, if that's all you got to worry about, then you are a chattering class idiot and you are causing all the problems in the world.
Femi, very brief for me, please. Final line to you on this.
I mean, your other guest, I can't remember his name, but he talk about inconsistencies and incoherency and all this, that, and the rest. But he doesn't seem to know what the Bengal famine is. He doesn't seem to know about the Boer concentration camps. He keeps talking about hostages and ignoring the fact that hundreds of thousands of people have been murdered by Israel in the past 2 years. It's very clear that the man has no moral conscience. The man has the man does not see certain types of people as human. Otherwise he would have something to say about the tens to hundreds of thousands of people who have been murdered by Israel. And it's very clear that he has no idea of the realities of history, because he seems to think that Britain did nothing bad. He seems to think that the Bengal famine didn't happen. He seems to think that the fact that Britain led, and Britain did lead the slave trade. Yes, slavery happened in Africa. Slavery happened all over the world. That's not the same as the transatlantic slave trade. It's not the same as literally taking people across the ocean en masse for hundreds of years in an industrialized way. We're talking about people being captured in wars, prisoners of wars most of the time. Is where, in terms of Africa, when you had slavery domestically, you would have people who were prisoners of wars and who were taken and who were then forced to be
we've got to wrap it up. We've got to wrap it up.
The man
Femi.
knows nothing.
Thank you very both, culturalist historian Dr. Philip Kisley and writer and activist Femi Nylander there. Thank you both very much. Very fiery debate. Thank you for joining me. All right, coming up, I will mark a landmark day for Reform UK, but I'll ask, can they sustain their lead in the polls, or will they self-destruct? Now, if you're in for some holiday sun, well, there's plenty of it here, but if you are looking for some, here's our forecast of the top European destinations.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The European heatwave is set to continue. Lots of strong sunshine across Europe. Many temperatures just pushing into the low to mid-40s. This in particular across inland areas of Spain. Even parts of France are going to be pushing into the low 40s over the next few days. And eastern Mediterranean, we're widely going to see temperatures in the mid-40s. So the sunshine is set to be intense, and it's going to be continuing over the next few days, along with the hot temperatures.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. So the main story is just how high temperatures are going to get over the next few days, particularly in the south, but we will have a bit of rain in the north at times, and it's all courtesy of this just wiggling weather front that's going to just brush the far north of the UK over the next 24 hours or so. But then look at those shades of red envelop the UK, so turning much hotter by Monday and Tuesday. Back to Saturday evening though, and most of the cloud is melting away, so it's going to turn into a dry night for most. Clear skies as well, so some patchy mist and fog perhaps developing in the countryside in the most prone rural spots, and maybe getting down into the mid-single figures also, so a little bit chilly for some of us first thing on Sunday morning. But across the north of Scotland, the showers will continue. It won't be quite as breezy as it was on Saturday, but there'll still be a few around on Sunday morning, mainly across the Northern Isles, so Shetland seeing the odd heavier one, a few drifting into the west coast of Scotland as well, but most of these lighter than they would have been overnight. Some sunshine first thing for Northern Ireland, eastern Scotland, many parts of northern England and Wales, dry and sunny as well. Any mist quickly disappearing, and then temperatures really rising pretty quickly in that strong August sunshine. So a beautiful, sunny and very warm day to come for many parts of Wales, England, and particularly eastern Scotland. Here we won't have quite the breeze that we saw on Saturday, so feeling quite a bit warmer, and temperatures into the low 20s potentially here. Quite a bit more in the way of cloud though developing across Northern Ireland through the afternoon, some patchy rain as well by the evening. But as I say, temperatures above average for the time of year, and highs of 28 Celsius in the southeast of England. That rain across Northern Ireland spreads to other parts of Scotland by Monday, so quite a damp picture across many northern parts of the UK through the day. Some rain off and on, heaviest and most persistent in northwest Scotland. Otherwise though, further south, look at all this blue sky and sunshine, so some high level cloud perhaps, but temperatures into the low 30s and perhaps even into the mid 30s very locally through Tuesday and perhaps Wednesday, so some hot weather on the way.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Alex. Hello, thank you very much for coming on. Listen, 100 days in, how's it going from your perspective, running these councils? Massive responsibility, the first time Reform has tasted real power.
Well, considering that we've got 12 councils and a lot of people who have taken on these roles, it's their first experience of local government. They've got a lot of experience from business and life, which I think was lacking in the previous administrations, but they brought that with them. And I saw figures published today that we've made in 100 days, £110 million worth of savings already, and we're just getting started. And we also said as well, all these councils said, we're going to go carefully, we're going to make decisions in a structured way, make sure that we don't just go into it like a bull in a china shop, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah, of course, you know, it's not all been plain sailing since Reform obviously you had 6 MPs over the course of the parliamentary term so far. You're back down to 4. Obviously picked up Sarah Pochen along the way, but have lost Rupert Lowe and others up until this point. Is there something to be said, and this is criticism that's coming from people across the internet, and J.K. Rowling said it today, a couple of days ago, that there's a change happening in the party, that actually there's not this big alignment that people say there is. Is that potentially something you guys need to look out for? I mean, even Nigel Farage himself has said that your biggest enemy are yourselves now. Would you agree with that?
Well, I mean, losing James McMurdoch and Rupert Lowe, I mean, because there's so few MPs, of course, it makes a much bigger deal than it would be in, say, Labour or the Conservatives, you know, because of the numbers. But I don't know. I see from the inside of the party that what's actually happening is that we are progressing, building, structuring. The democratisation and the professionalisation of the party is gathering pace. The branch network is growing. The number of candidates are growing. The maturity in the campaigning is growing. And of course, we had a huge boost with Runcorn earlier in the year, which shows that there's a real appetite for change out there. And we know that when we come together as a party, we can make a massive difference.
Yeah, I mean, so let's just some of the criticisms here. Of course, branded as woke in the last week, and that was because of the trans prisons debate. Of course, that big conference that you can see on the screen there that Nigel Farage showed on Britain is lawless. It actually, rather than was a big focus on being tough on law and order, it looked like the party had sort of given way to not really defining what a woman was in prisons, despite that being, handled by the Supreme Court on a relatively done issue there, at least for the right, a victory. Well, many people say victory for the right wing. Was that a bit of an own goal?
Well, I think after that press conference, all the key people, including Nigel, have doubled down and said that we won't be having men in women's prisons. So I think it's the slightest thing. We are under the microscope here as a party. And whatever we say is analysed to look for chinks, mistakes, errors, and then that's blown up. And this is one of those things. We are definitely not woke. We are the opposite of woke. You've seen that in the councils, in the way that we have, gone to war with DE&I, gone to war with net zero, and more of the same will be coming at the government level as well.
Yeah, and very, very, very briefly, do you think these sorts of small little fallouts that do become national stories, because of course the party only has a few MPs and is in the spotlight because it's leading the polls, do you think it's because you lack coherent policies yet, and actually what reform needs to do is double down on its policy agenda so people know exactly where they stand? And MPs, I know Sarah Pochen was out defending ID cards, which I personally think is an abomination to have any ID cards. I know she said it's her personal opinion, not party policy, but surely this is the time now to go, actually, look, we probably need to get some stances on some key issues together.
We do need to develop policy, and we are developing policy. I mean, the thing I would say is, don't forget you've got the Labour Party's got 120 years, the Tories have got 200 years. We are literally building the plane and it's going along the runway, like we did last year in the election, and we had a huge success. There is active work going on to build the policy, but what we've got to make sure is that we get it right, because we are under the microscope. And I think in the absence of formal policy positions on everything, then MPs will give their personal opinion. And I think as an MP, that's right to have your opinion, to be honest.
Yeah, OK. Well, thank you, Dan Barker, for joining me. They were one of the Reform UK's branch leaders there from Greater Manchester. Dan, thank you very much. It'll be very interesting to see how Reform navigates that, of course, over the next few years, because policy is really what ends up becoming the big discussion before a general election. So I suspect we'll have to stay tuned for more of that. But it is now time for the Great British Giveaway and your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for a whole year. Plus an extra £5,000 in your bank to play with. And if you don't pay a monthly mortgage or rent payment, we'll give you £15,000 in cash instead. Here's all the details.
We want to send some of those monthly financial stresses packing this August with your chance to be mortgage or rent-free for 12 whole months. We'll give you a cash lump sum that equals 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to an amazing £20,000. We'll also throw in an extra £5,000 on top of that for good measure. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up, get this. I'll ask whether you have to be an overweight middle-aged man to like one of Britain's biggest ever bands. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss this one. This is Bedley Tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Chu, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, Oasis have done their latest gig on their comeback tour this evening. Lucky people who got to go to that still can't get a ticket, but there we go. They've been on stage at Murrayfield Stadium in Edinburgh, but not everyone, get this, is happy to see them in the Scottish capital. Liam Gallagher hits our Edinburgh Council chiefs after their fans were branded old and overweight in safety briefings. I cannot repeat, and I really can't repeat what Liam Gallagher said, but as you can imagine, it was extremely colourful. We're now joined by the co-founder of the Together Association, Alan Miller. Alan, thank you very much for joining me. Listen, just a bunch of people who wanted to go and celebrate one of the greatest bands in British history have been branded some relatively colourful words by Edinburgh Council, or at least by their safety briefings. What do you make of Liam's response? Please don't repeat what he said on air if you don't mind.
No, well, the thing is, Alex, right, and by the way, I've got to say I'm really loving your work at the moment, but the thing is that Edinburgh Council, who spent £400,000 a year of our taxpayers' money on diversity and inclusion projects, seem to think that 70,000 people, primarily from Scotland, but of course people from South Korea and Canada and across the world, who are all coming there, spending their money in Scotland, and that they're all scum, that they're all fat and drunk and like basically deplorables. What this is a technocratic attack on ordinary people. We see this time and time again with this elite. We see that Edinburgh Council that's not able to clean their streets to deal with potholes, but they are ready to fine people lots of money for driving around, as they did with me when I was there recently when we did an event to challenge their draconian measures, which many of the shopkeepers and businesses and locals do not want to have there. We've seen time and again, Alex, that you know, these councillors, well, you saw the leader of the council was struck off. We've also seen that their crime rates are one of the worst in the UK and in Scotland. And again, this whole idea of diversity inclusion, I mean, Oasis, look, whatever you want to say about Noel and Liam, right? I happen to love them. Many people have a love-hate relationship with them, but I've got to say, the public loves Oasis. Right, I know they tried to get appropriated by the Blair moment, but the fact is they come out and they say things and they're part of the everyday people, right? Ordinary people in Britain. And it's just really telling, particularly in the light of the backdrop of what's going on in Britain right now, with the great British public, particularly our women, right, grandmothers and mothers that are out there protecting our kids and everything, that the Edinburgh Council chooses to talk about in private, which, by the way, they want to stop us talking in private, and they think we are the ones who talk about people in a nasty way. They think we're all gammons and scum, but they're the ones who are talking about the British public, the Scottish public in this way. I think that Liam's absolutely right. I don't care if he's got colourful language. I'm not going to repeat it here, but I think the majority of the great British public agrees with him. That's why they've got sold-out concerts in Cardiff, in London and in Edinburgh. And Edinburgh Council should be quaking and shaking because there's going to be more elections soon. And frankly, the public are fed up with them, right? I think it's disgusting what we're seeing around the country, how these elite patricians are talking about us. It's just not on, and times for change, quite frankly.
Yeah, listen, Alan, thank you so much for joining me. Brilliant, coherent statement there. Co-founder of the Together Association. Thank you so much for joining me, Alan. Brilliant stuff. I've just got my panel here still, thankfully. They're very happy to be here to talk about this big topic. Paul and Peter have both Linda and I have been able to get tickets, but Paul, would you take any issue with anything Alan said there? I mean, obviously, Alan, strong words for the council. Do you think it's fair, or do you think the council is trying to point out something that is perhaps true?
Well, I mean, the Gallagher spent most of the 90s supporting the Colombian economy, but this tour actually is supporting the UK economy, isn't it? And it's bringing millions into the UK exchequer, not just the foreign visitors. I took my son, he's 15, he's not an overweight middle-aged man, he's a 15-year-old kid. He knew more lyrics than I did, and he loves Oasis. Do you know what else, though? Not a single Palestinian flag amongst the 50,000-odd people. Okay. It's a working-class crowd enjoying music, you know?
Well, Peter, I've got very briefly on this before we've got to go to a break, but one document has said there had been minimal arrests at events, including both of the Gallagher brothers. That's from the same safety report and council. Maybe it was all taken out of context. What do you think?
I'm fat. I'm old. I'm white. The one thing they missed out, and I loved the Oasis gig, where I had quite a few beers. All they missed out was saying was white. They restrained themselves. I bet they really wanted to say that.
Yeah. OK, listen, we have got all your front pages coming up in just a second with some big stuff happening. This is Ben Leo Tonight. See you after the break.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. So the main story is just how high temperatures are going to get over the next few days, particularly in the south, but we will have a bit of rain in the north at times, and it's all courtesy of this just wiggling weather front that's going to just brush the far north of the UK over the next 24 hours or so. But then look at those shades of red envelop the UK, so turning much hotter by Monday and Tuesday. Back to Saturday evening though, and most of the cloud is melting away, so it's going to turn into a dry night for most. Clear skies as well, so some patchy mist and fog perhaps developing in the countryside in the most prone rural spots, and maybe getting down into the mid-single figures. Also, so a little bit chilly for some of us first thing on Sunday morning. But across the north of Scotland, the showers will continue. It won't be quite as breezy as it was on Saturday, but there'll still be a few around on Sunday morning, mainly across the Northern Isles, so Shetland seeing the odd heavier one, a few drifting into the west coast of Scotland as well, but most of these lighter than they would have been overnight. Some sunshine first thing for Northern Ireland, eastern Scotland, many parts of northern England and Wales, dry and sunny as well. Any mist quickly disappearing, and then temperatures really rising pretty quickly in that strong August sunshine. So a beautiful, sunny and very warm day to come for many parts of Wales, England, and particularly eastern Scotland. Here we won't have quite the breeze that we saw on Saturday, so feeling quite a bit warmer, and temperatures into the low 20s potentially here. Quite a bit more in the way of cloud though developing across Northern Ireland through the afternoon, some patchy rain as well by the evening. But as I say, temperatures above average for the time of year, and highs of 28 Celsius in the southeast of England. That rain across Northern Ireland spreads to other parts of Scotland by Monday, so quite a damp picture across many northern parts of the UK through the day. Some rain off and on, heaviest and most persistent in northwest Scotland. Otherwise, though, further south, look at all this blue sky and sunshine. So some high-level cloud perhaps, but temperatures into the low 30s and perhaps even into the mid-30s very locally through Tuesday and perhaps Wednesday. So some hot weather on the way.
Warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 3 weeks to see how you can win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. Make sure you don't miss out as lines close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Hello, it is 10 p.m. I'm Alex Armstrong standing in for Ben Leo. Breaking tonight. 466 people arrested. Yes, you heard that right. 466 people arrested in London at a Palestine Action protest, and anti-migrant rallies have erupted across the country. The Sunday Express reports that riot police are now on alert with more demonstrations planned. Elsewhere, there are fears for daughters on the front page of the Mail on Sunday. The Shadow Justice Secretary, Robert Jenrick, says he fears for his own 3 daughters being in the same neighbourhood as illegal migrants with medieval attitudes. And...
very merry birthday to me, to me. Oh, you. A very merry birthday to you. Oh, me? Yes, you. Oh, me. Let's all congratulate us with another cup of tea.
And no, that's not the inside scene of Keir Starmer's latest cabinet meeting, but it has been revealed by The Sun that Rachel Reeves has enjoyed a break at a £49 caravan park where she enjoyed a Mad Hatter's tea party. The jokes just write themselves, don't they, these days? Anyway, and on the Daily Star, Britain's special forces are pushing for more women to sign up to the elite SAS. Well, joining me this evening to go over all of these fantastic headlines, former Labour Special Advisor Paul Richards, former Scotland Yard Detective Peter Blexley, and journalist Linda Jubilee. My panel will also tell me about their biggest fails of the week and find out what on earth is going on here.
Shut up when I'm talking.
I beg your pardon, Councillor.
When I'm talking, this is my time, not your time. When I talk, you shut up, okay?
Oh, point of order.
Right. Well, of course, we started off with that breaking news. 466 arrests. The Sunday Express are reporting riot police are on alert as more protests are planned. Of course, today we saw so many protests across the country. It's a day of protest, not just for people on the right, but for people on the left as well, with those people arrested, 466 of them, of course, in Parliament. Moving on now to the Observer, the sound of silence there. You can see that there. That's the photo there from the Palestine Action protest today. Of course, they've got placards there of the Palestine Action supporters before. Of course, there were many of them rounded up. Moving on to the Mirror. We've got foreign criminals to be sent home to free jail space. Minister to end free bed and board for offenders. This is an exclusive here by the Mirror. Quite big stuff. Labour today will vow, this is today, as we're talking of tomorrow, Labour's going to vow to deport thousands more foreign criminals. That couldn't come soon enough, in my opinion. Moving on to the Mail on Sunday. Top Tory fears for daughter over boat migrants. Of course, that's coming as Robert Jenrick has said he fears for the safety of his three daughters living in the same neighbourhood as illegal migrants. And The Sun on Sunday. Liam's Lift. Star flies his rape-charged brother to Oasis show. Quite a big headline there. Daily Star. Top brass call on soldiers to join, female soldiers to join the SAS. Yeah, what do you all make of that? I mean, do we have to double down on DEI, or do we just want our troops to be the best for the job? OK, Sunday Telegraph. They're also leading with the hundreds held in Palestine protests there. I really want to know what you all think about this at home. Is this a breach of freedom to protest? Is this a breach of freedom of speech? Or should we actually be arresting these people, as they have, of course, supported a prescribed terror group? Right, as I said earlier, my fantastic panellists here, Paul Richards, Peter Blakeslee and Linda Jubilee are joining me. I don't even know where to start with these headlines. Linda, this doesn't caught your eye, anything in particular, or should we start? Maybe let's start with something a bit different, because we have talked about a lot of protest stuff the last hour.
I think starting with the top brass calling on female soldiers to join the SAS is a really, really interesting story.
Yeah.
And actually, why not? I mean, some of our toughest soldiers have been women. Some of the greatest heroes of World War II have been women. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think go for it, yeah.
Yeah,
who dares wins.
Yeah, who dares win? Oh, all right. I mean, look, one thing I'll quickly ask you, Linda, do you think that the women, if they do go for the SAS, should be held to the same physical standards as men?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's only fair. If you want to propagate this concept, this policy, you have to make sure that we've got the best people for the right job. I did this story, actually, years ago for ITV when we first started recruiting women for combat roles. And I interviewed a very high-ranking elderly guy, and he was so sweet. He said, you know, the fact of the matter is we fight to keep women safe. And actually, I liked hearing that. It's a good old-fashioned gallant
It's quite nice to hear these days, isn't it?
And I liked hearing it, I must say. But there's perfectly able women who can join the SAS and win.
Yeah, OK, Peter, I'll come to you, because obviously you've served in some way or another, at least for police for many, many years. What do you make of this? Look, I think we don't want to stop good patriotic women who want to be the best, but I do believe you at least have to pass the same physical standards as a man.
My mum, my wife, my sister, many friends, my heroes in life.
Absolutely.
Absolute heroes. If women are good enough, then of course they should go in. But don't get sucked in to the television image that you see of the SAS. The SAS has many, many skills which are far away from climbing rope nets and diving through tunnels.
Good point.
And I'm sure there are many women perfectly capable of serving their nation, keeping us safe, and they are the very best of us.
Absolutely. Paul, do you agree? I mean, I think there's probably unanimous consensus on the panel tonight, which might be a first, who knows? But, you know, I mean, obviously, you know, warfare's changing as well. It's not so much, you know, all muscle anymore, is it? There's a lot of, we've seen in the war in Ukraine, you know, drone technology. Maybe this is all part of the job these days, and so perhaps the physical stuff doesn't matter so much anymore.
I mean, it does matter, of course, but you're right, warfare has changed, and look at the role of women in Ukraine on the front lines. Look also in the way the Israeli army, for example, uses women in the front lines. I'm thinking too of the Kurdish fighters against ISIS, who were women.
Yeah.
You know, so and we've had women in the Royal Marines as well in this country, so it's a logical next step, and I would support it.
But I think when they train and when they recruit, they should be held to the same standards. They should be up there in the Brecon Beacons, in the wind and the rain, and going carrying 45 pounds of kit on their backs. They should all be doing that, because I think you do all have to pass that basic training.
I don't think you can feel part of the same equal team if you don't. You won't. You have to earn the respect of each other, and you've all gone through that same standard, which I think is where you gain that respect.
There are plenty of women that can do it.
I'm sure.
Lots of men that fail it. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's move on then to something a little bit interesting, actually. I think many of you at home. Let's go on to the Daily Mirror, or the Mirror on Sunday, should I say, because they're leading with this exclusive here. Foreign criminals to be sent home to free jail space. Minister to end free bed and board for offenders. Labour will announce tomorrow to port thousands more foreign criminals. Minister Alex Davies-Jones said they would be booted out. They booted out after sentencing rather than free bed and board in our jails. The plan will save millions, free up jail space, and put victims first. Peter, go on, Paul. Go on.
Well, I was going to say, it's one of those exclusives that's also in another newspaper, isn't it? So the Sunday Telegraph have it on their front page as well, below the
Perhaps they've got an exclusive interview with the minister, perhaps.
I think the Mirror will have a lot more than the Telegraph. Telegraph following
they've nicked it, but it's a great story, and it's exactly what people want to hear. You know, as ever, the proof will be in the pudding of the eating, but, you know, let's get it into law, and then let's start emptying some of these prison spaces by people being sent home. Quite right too.
This, to me, is possibly one of the most common sense things this government has done. Listen, Peter, I think the question is going to be asked: are they now listening to the calls for people to go, what is this nonsense we've been living on, and why can't we deport foreign criminals? And I think the question will be asked: why haven't we done it yet? Yeah.
Well, once again, I find myself having to correct Paul on detail. The Sunday Mirror's front page is about deporting foreign criminals, and this is being pushed by Minister Alex Davies-Jones for foreign criminals, right? Whereas the Sunday Telegraph, we have Shabana Mahmood apparently making an announcement about migrants, and there is a difference. They are different people, and she is saying they will be deported upon conviction, not after they've served their sentence. So actually two quite different stories with strong similarities. Great. Wonderful. If only I believed them, because I'm sure the lawyers will get in the way. All those lefty human rights lawyers, the likes of which Starmer was one, Hermer, the Attorney General, was one, of which the Labour Party is riddled with them. And let's see if they get in the way and scupper all these plans. I fear they will.
This is it, isn't it? This is going to be the proof in the pudding. Will it even push the Labour Party to change some of these laws? Do they want to get ahead, Linda, do you think, of reform here?
Well, the closer they get to a general election, the closer everyone gets to the general election, and we can hold politicians' feet to the fire, we will see what is actually likely to happen. And I am sure, although Peter's a little bit despondent about this at the moment, and maybe rightly so, we will find, as we get closer to casting our votes in the ballot box, we will see the strength of conviction from various political parties, possibly more from reform, I don't know.
Well, I guess, Paul, on this particular policy change, or maybe a shift on this policy, I mean, we have seen Shabana Mahmood trying to get a bit tougher, but of course it comes after lots of potential, people would say, as failures releasing criminals early, but they have said they will build more prisons, they have said they're going to now deport foreign criminals. I think Peter's got a good point, though. What are they... I mean, we don't know yet, because we will have to hopefully see the inside of these stories at some point. Do you think they're going to have to change the law to be able to stop what Peter has correctly pointed out is lefty lawyers, human rights lawyers, who are going to frustrate this process?
I mean, firstly, I'm always happy to be corrected by my elders and betters. That's entirely reasonable, so I thank them for that. But, I mean, the broader political point is that it does need to work as a policy. You can't just announce these things. In government, you have to then deliver, because that's what you'll be judged on. And, we've talked before, haven't we, about the legal blob, which is so often offside from public opinion and doesn't seem to be doing the public's bidding in this. And you do need to then take that on as a vested interest, otherwise it won't work. Also, we're going to need all these prison places for all these Palestine demonstrators, aren't we?
Well, that's a really good point, actually.
If they're getting custodial the fact of the matter is, we've got a really big problem with prisons anyway. And I don't know what numbers are involved here, but it was catastrophic as the previous administration was heading to the end of its term.
So true.
And imprisoning foreign criminals and keeping them there, and migrants and keeping them there, just adds more pressure to an already very, very strained system.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not ashamed to hold the Tories' feet over the fire for this, because they added a few hundred extra prison spaces over 14 years, but also, they imported millions of people into the country in that time, and they allowed the illegal migrant crisis to run wild. So I don't know how they're going to have much of a comeback on this. But talking of similar things that are going on with arrests in prison spaces, because I think was it Paul or Linda there was talking about the Palestine protests. Let's go to the Sunday Express. Riot police on alert as more protests planned. Of course, we broke the news that over 450 people have been arrested today in Parliament Square, outside the House of Commons and the Houses of Parliament, the home of our democracy. People who are staging a protest for Palestine Action, a prescribed terror group. Now, riot police are on standby, because we've seen this is not just Palestine, is it, anymore? We've got the migrant hotel crisis spread across the country with people who are just absolutely furious. Peter, do you think the government, having learnt from the summer of discontent last year, do you think they're getting ready for another summer of discontent?
The country is a tinderbox.
Yeah.
That's my observation from speaking to various people in various roles and parts of the country, day in, day out. It's an absolute tinderbox. There is so much disquiet out there. But let's just focus on this front page, if we may, for a moment. There's a picture of a woman being unceremoniously carted off after being arrested. Those idiots at Palestine Action thought they were going to outmanoeuvre the Metropolitan Police by blocking up each and every cell that the Met has. It has about 500 or so. The Met completely outmanoeuvred them by doing what is called street bail.
Right.
So they bailed them, essentially, from a desk. They nicked them, lined them up, give us your details, ran criminal records checks. If they could confirm who they were then bailed, so they didn't go anywhere near a cell or anywhere near a police station. Yet again, a masterstroke today by the Metropolitan Police, who, let me remind you, correct my previous score, actually won 466-0 today, which is a resounding victory for the Met. On this, they outmanoeuvred Palestine Action, they arrested them, they played a blinder.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, look, I saw them in action, because I don't know whether you were with us that day, Peter, but I had gone to a Palestine Action rally the day after they were prescribed as a terror group, and they were very organised, the police. And they did give people, Dougie Beattie was here earlier on, as he said, the police gave people the opportunity pretty much to walk away from this. And by now you'd expect, they could be facing over a decade in prison, some of these people. I suspect perhaps the court will be lenient on some of them, because they're not terrorists, are they, really?
Well, it's really interesting to hear what Peter was saying just then, and it is gratifying to hear that these people were processed so quickly. But one of the things that Dougie Beattie said, he didn't have time to say it on air, actually, but did say it off air, was if Starmer suddenly decides to go back on this and unprescribe this organisation or whatever, you can never retrospectively go back and go to those kids, some of whom are university students or even younger, they're teenager. They've got a serious record which will impinge their future for decades.
Forever.
Forever. Yeah. And I think that's just heartbreaking. As the mother of 3 adult children, I watch these things carefully, and it was very distressing.
But if you look at this woman on the front of the Express, and if you look at so many people in that picture of the front of the Observer, I bet they're the first people to shout and moan at the police going, what are you doing against violence against women and girls? Well, actually, we're all too busy scooping you lot up. They're clowns, they're idiots, they got nicked in their droves. Well done, the Met Police.
Yeah, let's just put up the picture of the Observer there while we're talking about this, because the Observer, of course, have gone the sound of silence. More than 400 arrested at a peaceful protest in support of Palestine action. Paul, does it matter if it's a peaceful protest? Because I can't remember who was telling me, maybe it was you, Paul, actually, that you were saying there is another a Palestine demo today in a different part of London, and they could have chose to go to that instead, but actually they chose to go to the location where the Palestine Action people were and hold up placards which they knew would get them arrested.
I mean, unfortunately, this is a definite tactic to get arrested on purpose in mass numbers. They think they can break the criminal justice system.
Yeah.
They can make a point so big that the law has to change, that the government will change its mind on this being a prescribed organisation, and they're trying to sort of, you know, they think...
Is it they can't arrest us all mentality?
It is, and they think they are Mahatma Gandhi. You know, that's why they're choosing the statue of Gandhi to protest underneath.
They were, actually,
But there were hundreds of thousands of other people going on demos all over the place in other bits of London, you know, making their views known about Palestine, which is the right to protest. And like I say, there's another demo tomorrow in support of the hostages, and that will go off relatively peacefully, I'm sure. But these people have chosen this route, and, you know, the law is the law. And the tragedy is, as we've been saying all night, there are going to be people who've been egged on, who've been told, oh, don't worry, they can't arrest all of you, don't worry, they'll let you out, it's all OK, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know, think about the genocide, think about Gaza, whose lives are now utterly wrecked, whose their families are going to be wrecked, whose future prospects have been taken away in the last few hours.
The law of the land. What is the law of the land?
Just for a bit of balance, because some of the people, particularly these protesters, would say this. They would say, well, I'm not a terrorist. I'm being basically arrested at the same level as Hamas, because that's the same level of terror prescription that it is.
Doesn't what their opinion is.
But I want to know.
But
that's what I want to. That's what I want to know from you guys. Is there a point in time where you say, actually, if this were, let's say, it was people protesting outside migrant hotels, if some far left government came in and said, actually, you're all terrorists, would that be fair then?
Well, you have a right to protest, but if the law of the land says A, B, C, you have to pay attention to it. And they may have made a decision. They think that actually they will bear the burden or the consequences of their action.
Can we please all grasp reality here? And I'll forgive you if you're not familiar with the crimes of Palestine Action, OK? They have caused millions upon millions of pounds worth of damage. They've assaulted people. They've tried to put businesses out of business. They've affected people's livelihood. They have run a campaign which can now be regarded and correctly called a campaign of terror. And, of course, including the damage to the RAF.
Listen, I want to make it clear.
That's who they are.
I want to make it clear.
But once you've broken into a military base installation, that is it. Game over.
Yeah, listen, OK, look, we've got to move on. I think you're right, Peter. I think it's just important we hear out what the alternative argument might be, you know, because I think this is what these people will say, and I think if you lot at home have to hear it, otherwise, you know, we won't be doing you justice. But, anyway, we've got loads more papers. I mean, we've had a lot of breaking news tonight already between now and midnight, but... in between then, here's your chance to win in our great British giveaway, and your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for a year, plus an extra 5k in your bank to play with. And if you don't have a monthly mortgage or rent payment, we'll give you 15 grand cash instead. Here's all the details.
It's just 3 weeks to see how you can win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. Make sure you don't miss out as lines close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Listen, you don't want to go anywhere because there are so many more stories on Sunday's papers and we are just halfway through. This has been Leo Tonight, only on GB News. Stay with us.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Patrick Christie's Tonight. Weekdays from 9 p.m.
Are the Prince and Princess of Wales animal abusers? It's time now for the head-to-head. Well, Peter's at it again, this time aiming at the Prince and Princess of Wales for daring to breed their Cocker Spaniels. The animal rights activists say that the royal couple are, quote, out of touch and slam them for churning out a litter while rescue centres are overflowing. It comes after Kensington Palace released a photo of Prince William and dog Orla and her 3 puppies, snapped by Kate for his 43rd birthday. So, is it really cruel? Are the royals cruel for breeding their dogs? Well, going head-to-head on this now, I'm pleased to be joined by Senior Corporate Projects Manager at Peter, Dr Caris Bennett, and dog trainer John Allison.
There's all these dogs that are desperately needing a home. Why breed more dogs into the world? It sends the wrong message. And in fact, you don't have to look far to see the right message. King Charles and Camilla adopted Molly, an Aussie dog from an animal rescue. And we encourage everyone to do the same. If you're looking to have a companion animal at home, please go to an animal rescue, never breed dogs.
It's very important to note that it's natural for dogs to breed and create their puppies. I think it's absolutely ludicrous to label the royal family irresponsible. We just have to look at their incredible record of animal welfare and how much they have done for animal welfare throughout the country. Unlike an organisation like PETA, who only recently contributed to dogs being put in rescue centres when they supported the banning of the XL bully.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. I've got some more fresh papers ready to talk about in just a second, but I'm also joined by Andrew Gilligan, who is the former senior correspondent at the Sunday Times. He's currently a senior research fellow with the Policy Exchange. Thank you so much for joining me, Andrew. Shall we talk, first of all, about the Telegraph and Robert Jenrick, his statement about being concerned about his 3 girls and them living near to illegal migrants in his local neighbourhood.
That's right. He's given an interview, I think, to the Mail on Sunday, where he says he doesn't want his children to live in the same neighbourhood as to share a neighbourhood with men from backward countries who broke into Britain illegally. That's what he said. Yeah. You see, one of the stories of the day, one of the dogs that probably didn't bark today was the demo outside that migrant hostel in Nuneaton, hotel in Nuneaton. there was some worry that would turn into trouble, and it doesn't seem to have, at least not so far. The weekend, of course, is not over. But, you know, it seems to be the Palestine Action people who've had all the aggro. But obviously that's a very sort of delicate situation which we've got to carry on watching carefully.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I guess Jenrick isn't unfamiliar with this sort of stuff. He has made these kinds of statements before, Andrew. You know, he said that, you know, they're from medieval cultures, and I believe Kemi Badenoch's also made this statement. What do you think the sort of political initiative to say this is? Is it because they want to get on the same page as reform, or is this because Robert Jenrick, who is, you know, perhaps this isn't really, you know, this story's not really in his what should I say, his shadow cabinet remit. You know, he's the shadow justice secretary, not the shadow home secretary, or indeed the foreign secretary. So what's the sort of play here for Jenrick making a statement about this?
I mean, he's been campaigning to be the next leader of the party for some time. I think that's what this is about.
He's not finished running yet.
And I mean, you will hear protestations of loyalty to Kemi Badenoch, but frankly, an awful lot of people do not believe that she is going to make it to the next election. And I think he wants to be in pole position if she should depart.
Yeah.
I think pretty much the long and the short of it.
Yes, yeah. I mean, he's, of course, perhaps one of his new competitors arrived on the scene. What's his James Cleverly, sorry, the new shadow housing minister has now entered the fray. Perhaps maybe there's a little bit of a challenge there from the left wing of the Conservative Party. Let's go through some other front pages with you, if you don't mind, Andrew. On the front page of the Sunday Times, Labour and 3 of its MPs accepted more than £40,000 of election campaign donations from a convicted criminal the party expelled as a member 3 years ago. The contributions from Abdul Sattar, Shareen Mohammed included £10,300 to the National Party in June 2024. Labour has said donations would be submitted to the Electoral Commission in the party's next quarterly return. We'll get to a spokesperson's statement on that in a second, but what do you make of that? You know, when Labour first stormed to power, there was obviously Allygate and the free clothing scandal. Is this just going to be another look at Labour going, oh, are they not as good and as gold as they told us they were before the election?
I think that's right. I mean, 15 grand of this was to a minister, apparently, Stephen Morgan, and that's slightly problematic. We could be looking at the 5th ministerial resignation now after the 4 we've already had, and I think the Labour. The problem is, look, I mean, Labour kind of promoted this idea that its people were whiter than white and the wicked Tories were evil and horrible. And actually, like, you know, life is a bit less simple than that. It's a bit more complicated. That you've got good and bad people in all the parties. You've got people here who apparently don't seem to declare these donations either. They say that was the Minister of Error. So that's the kind of excuse you used to hear from some of the Tory wrongdoers who Labour took great pleasure in attacking back when they were in opposition. So, you know, there's an element of they're all as bad as each other, isn't there? And I'm sure if Reform ever got into power, we'd be reading similar stories about them as well, by the way.
Interesting. I want to bring my panel in on this topic, but I just want to read a rise of reply. A spokesman has said this: these donations were made to Portsmouth Labour Party. Action has since been taken to return them. Labour said that because Stephen Morgan's crowdfunding page said donations would also support other campaigns in Portsmouth, it could not be considered a direct donation to him and did not need to be declared in his register of interests. Let me just, because my other panel would like to ask some questions, Andrew. So, Peter, what are you taking away from here?
Yeah, Mr Gilligan, you've worked very close to the heart of government when the Tories were in power. Why is it that both Labour and the Tory party are incapable of acting with integrity and honesty throughout?
Well, I think I think that's quite a broad statement. So obviously there's thousands and thousands of people in all the parties, and on the whole, only a relatively small number of them do stuff like this. But it is pretty difficult. I myself don't understand.
Excuse me, I'm going to interrupt you there. What is difficult? What is difficult about acting honestly and acting with integrity? Tell me what is difficult about those two things.
If you've got a cross-section of people in any political party, you're always going to get some chances. And politics is a job that attracts risk takers, because it's a pretty risky way of applying for a job, frankly, fighting for an election. So you're going to end up with people like this in every party, as we see. But I do agree with you that, and I've written this before, that that the Tory party in particular just didn't do enough to make sure that its MPs were of good enough quality.
Okay.
So I think it's a terrible job being an MP. It's quite difficult to get good people to do it now because it's not attractive in all sorts of ways. But all the parties have got to be much, much more careful about the kind of people that they put up as candidates.
OK. Paul, you'd like to come in?
Hi, Andrew. I mean, I agree completely, by the way, that Jenrick is on manoeuvres, but whether he'll be the one who actually benefits from it, I doubt. But on the funding story, does this not just raise the issue of party funding yet again? And we have a problem in this country that we don't want to have state-funded political parties in total. Parts of them are state-funded, obviously, because the taxpayer doesn't want to pay, which means they have to raise funds, which means they have to deal with people like this bloke who is obviously a wrong and who shouldn't be giving money. I mean, it's good to say that it's right to say that the money's going back, it's been returned. But do you not think that there is a big case now for party donation reform, including the thresholds, including transparency, and including these kind of crowdfunding things which, you can hide behind?
So I think we need to address it from the demand side rather than the supply side, because bluntly, you can put all the reform, all the rules you like in, and we've done an awful lot of that in the last few years. But politicians, if they need the money and they're sufficiently unscrupulous, always find ways around them. So the way to clean it up is to ensure that they don't need the money. In other words, to significantly restrict what they can spend money on. One of the reasons why it's so much more of a problem in America, this kind of thing, and because the amounts of money is so much larger, is that politicians in America can and do routinely buy TV advertising, which is very expensive. Now, in this country, the sums involved are pretty small. We're talking 15,000 something here, wasn't it? 40,000. And that's because they're not allowed to buy some of the most expensive things which politicians in America buy. So I think the answer to this, part of the answer anyway, is to further restrict the things that politicians in this country can spend money on. So maybe you say, well, you can't advertise on Facebook anymore. You can't do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And they'll need less money, and they won't be tempted to fall into the arms of dodgy people like this.
OK, Andrew, I want to bring in Linda, because she's got a question for you. Let's keep it brief if we can, guys.
I'm going to keep this brief, Andrew. It's kind of running parallel to this, but the Homelessness Minister, Rishanara Ali, obviously had to resign over these allegations over her hiking the rent over properties she had. What surprised me, though, is just how many MPs are also landlords. I was staggered at the number of MPs this involved. Surely we should be doing something about that.
So 4 cabinet ministers, I think, are landlords. I read somewhere in the papers over the weekend. Quite a lot, isn't it? I mean, obviously, an awful lot of people are landlords. Like, you're talking of, people who've got buy-to-let properties and that kind of thing. It's been encouraged to, people have been encouraged to see it as their pensions. And one of the things that might make it harder to get decent people into politics is if you say that, sorry, if you want to go into politics, you can't own another house. You can't do any other jobs. So you've got to make a balance.
OK.
But I think the key is, obviously not behaving like Rishanara Ali did, not evicting people, not making people homeless when you're the homelessness minister.
Well, I think Andrew, there's a lot of common sense, perhaps it always seems to be missing in politics and in our parliament. Look, thank you, Andrew Gilligan. Thank you so much for joining us to answer all of our questions and run through some of those headlines with us there. Coming up, find out what this video has got in common at least, with Rachel Reeves.
Very merry at birthday to me, to me. Oh, yeah. A very merry at birthday to you. Who, me? Yes, you. Oh, me. Let's all congratulate us with another cup of tea.
OK, this is Ben Leo tonight with me, Alex Armstrong, only on GBNews. Stay with us until after the... Get me off air.
Hello there and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. So the main story is just how high temperatures are going to get over the next few days, particularly in the south. But we will have a bit of rain in the north at times, and it's all courtesy of this just wiggling weather front that's going to just brush the far north of the UK over the next 24 hours or so. But then look at those shades of red envelop the UK, so turning much hotter by Monday and Tuesday. Back to Saturday evening though, and most of the cloud is melting away, so it's going to turn into a dry night for most. Clear skies as well, so some patchy mist and fog perhaps developing in the countryside in the most prone rural spots, and maybe getting down into the mid-single figures. Also, so a little bit chilly for some of us first thing on Sunday morning. But across the north of Scotland, the showers will continue. It won't be quite as breezy as it was on Saturday, but there'll still be a few around on Sunday morning, mainly across the Northern Isles, so Shetland seeing the odd heavier one, a few drifting into the west coast of Scotland as well. but most of these lighter than they would have been overnight. Some sunshine first thing for Northern Ireland, eastern Scotland, many parts of northern England and Wales, dry and sunny as well. Any mist quickly disappearing, and then temperatures really rising pretty quickly in that strong August sunshine. So a beautiful, sunny and very warm day to come for many parts of Wales, England, and particularly eastern Scotland. Here we won't have quite the breeze that we saw on Saturday, so feeling quite a bit warmer, and temperatures into the low 20s potentially here. Quite a bit more in the way of cloud though developing across Northern Ireland through the afternoon, some patchy rain as well by the evening. But as I say, temperatures above average for the time of year, and highs of 28 Celsius in the southeast of England. That rain across Northern Ireland spreads to other parts of Scotland by Monday, so quite a damp picture across many northern parts of the UK through the day. Some rain off and on, heaviest and most persistent in northwest Scotland. Otherwise, though, further south, look at all this blue sky and sunshine. So some high-level cloud perhaps, but temperatures into the low 30s and perhaps even into the mid-30s very locally through Tuesday and perhaps Wednesday. So some hot weather on the way.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
All right, welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. Let's return to some of those bombshell front pages. The Times are leading. Frantic Europe pushing for fresh plan on Ukraine. That's, of course, European leaders are pulling together an alternative peace plan for Ukraine last night before Donald Trump's meeting with Vladimir Putin in Alaska on Friday. Now, Sunday Express. Oh, quite a big one here. Riot police on alert as more protests across the country are planned. Of course, that was following today's news that 466 people, I believe, were arrested as part of the Palestine Action Demo. And talking of that, The Observer has led with the sound of silence. More than 400 arrested at a peaceful protest in support of Palestine Action. Then The Mirror. They are leading with what they call a Labour exclusive here. Foreign criminals to be sent home to free jail space. Ministers to end free bed and board for offenders. Welcome news, I think. The Mail here. Top Tories fears for daughter over boat migrants. This is Robert Jenrick worried about his little girl's safety. The Sun on Sunday. They are leading with Liam's lift. Star flies his rape-charged brother to Oasis show in £3.5 million private jet. The Daily Star. Top brass call on female soldiers to join the SAS. And I like the line here, Sue Dares wins. And then finally, the Sunday Telegraph. Their lead story there is the hundreds held in Palestine protests. We've talked about that quite a lot. But if we stay with the Telegraph now for this bit, because as many of you know, anyone who's ever watched my shows, at least in the last few weeks, we've been talking a lot about the online safety bill, which I have absolutely blasted time and time again. But now Labour are saying, are warning tech giants over heavy-handed censorship. Linda, it seems to me that perhaps the government have realised that this bill is completely defunct and completely unfit for purpose. They now have, first of all, they told them they're going to fine them if they get stuff wrong. Now they're going to tell them they're going to fine them if they don't get stuff right.
I know. It does look that way. And that is a symptom of this government, I think, that they do these they do big U-turns as well, but they certainly do very mini U-turns. It's as though they're reacting to a focus group or to public opinion in the moment. And that makes their policy look fairly inconsistent. Now, as I've been saying since the beginning, an online safety bill is, in fact, very, very important. We saw, I think it was probably only a couple of years ago, Alexander McCartney in Northern Ireland jailed for life because he abused 350 young girls across the world. The police were only able to succeed when a 13-year-old girl committed suicide in Virginia. The police said that he did so much abuse online that they couldn't actually work out when he was sleeping and eating.
Wow.
So we clearly need to protect children, but we also need to protect public free speech.
Yep.
And that's absolutely critical. It appears we're swerving back here, but I don't think this is any way to run a country. You shouldn't be behaving this way. You should research the bill to start with, make sure you've got the right bill, then implement it correctly.
Peter, look, I interviewed Michelle Donelan not that long ago, and I asked her, can you tell me what a VPN is? Can you tell me how it works? And unfortunately, in my opinion, she could not satisfactorily answer that question for me. She wrote that bill. Do we have a problem that our MPs just don't know what laws they're writing, really?
Yeah, we really do. And, of course, they've hived responsibility for enforcing this bill. Some of it's gone to Ofcom, some of it's gone to the Science Department. It's a complete dog's dinner, and it really needs rewriting, this one being pulled and something fit for purpose being laid in front. But you see, this is a problem when you get politicians to do specialists' jobs, and they are very afraid of reaching out to specialists because they like to think they're the know-alls.
Yeah.
When they're not.
Shows them up, doesn't it?
Correct.
I mean, Nadine Dorries famously said, can we stop the algorithms? And you know, that many people sitting at home might not know what an algorithm is. It just doesn't work like that, to put it simply. You just can't stop them. And I think, Paul, you know, when we see things like this, people are worried so much. I think particularly under this government, over the last year, they feel, since, of course, we had the summer of discontent last year, and there's been all this stuff about free speech with Trump and other people, you know, this was a worry that actually now we're cracking down on freedom of speech online. Is this a welcome statement from Labour on this, or should they just do the right thing and ditch that bill?
I mean, the original wording of the bill was drawn up by the previous
Yes, it was, yeah.
It's a good example, in my view, of where the technology is outstripping the legislature. So, as ever, Parliament is behind both the public opinion and also the technology, you know, going so fast. However, I am a fan of the parliamentary process. So, if that can, through, you know, some of the experts getting involved through the committee system and actually, you know, really scrutinising this bill as it's going through to improve it, and this thing in the papers today might be a sign of that, then all well and good, because you do need a legislative framework. You know, the technology can't be totally untrammeled and uncontained by law. People can't just do and say whatever they want on social media and elsewhere. And the tech giants can't be bigger than governments.
Yeah. Well, obviously, Linda, this comes... JD Vance has been here in the UK. He interestingly had a meeting with David Lammy. They're unlikely friends, right? Unlikely friends.
I think I saw a shot of them carp fishing together.
Yeah.
I can't actually work it out in my head, except that I've read, as Paul has as well, A Hillbilly Elegy, which is J.D. Vance's book. And it's clear that he kind of started off as a Democrat. His father was a Democrat. So I think he is who he is. And he's not... I mean, he's obviously a Republican now, but there are certain things about him that I can imagine gets alongside David Lammy. And one of those things is that they both come from fairly damaged childhoods. I mean, these are severely damaged. J.D. Vance's mother was, I believe, a heroin addict. Right. And David Lammy had his own problems as well. And they kind of bonded over how you overcame those challenges. So I can see how it's all working.
And do you think that as a result of that, J.D. Vance, who is clearly quite a champion of free speech,
yes.
At least in American terms, has spoke about free speech in Europe a lot. Do you think because of that reason that him and maybe because it seems very apt timing that this little bit of change here from the government saying actually now we're going to fine you if you get it wrong, perhaps because J.D. Vance is here and that Labour want to make a bit of a splash about it?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
And I think personal relationships matter a lot in politics. I don't think that this would have been mentioned about their bonding if it didn't actually exist.
Yeah.
And I think there is something about that relationship which could be quite helpful to all of us.
What do you make of it, Paul?
Well, I just wanted to throw into the mix that they're both very strong Christians as well, and that's something they both have in common. And I believe that's one of the sort of things that they've discussed together and bonded over. And in politics, you know, there are all kinds of strange bedfellows, people that you would think would be absolutely at each other's throats. Do create these alliances. J.D. Vance, very serious figure, probably president before the next set of American elections, in my humble opinion, but someone to watch for sure.
Peter?
I love a day's fishing. And I've never dressed like either of them two did. Right?
It's a photo shoot, was it?
Talk about stage, you know what I mean? Neither of them had an apron on. I didn't see any maggots in sight. I didn't see a bed chair. Didn't see a stove. Didn't see anything.
Didn't see anything.
That ain't fishing. That's playing at it. They were just playing at it for the cameras.
I think you might be right there. They do love a good PR stunt, don't they? Do you ever get past Peter Blexley, though, will it? I mean, look, listen, I think this bill just needs to go away. I mean, I saw a very, very famous TikToker who's based here in Britain. He's the biggest, actually, news TikToker on their platform. Gets millions and millions of views for almost every single one of his posts. And even one of his posts was taken down yesterday. And TikTok's famous for deactivating people's posts. I've had some of mine taken down. But this wasn't even taken down by TikTok. It was taken down by UK law, which says to me there is a huge problem here. And he said he's going to leave if it carries on. And I don't blame them, because it is crazy. So I think we're happy to see that. What should we talk about next? Because I think there's a lot more to dig into here. Let's have a... OK, I'll tell you what, we've got loads more of tomorrow's papers coming out very soon. So let's quickly tell you about some of the top European destinations if you're looking for some holiday sun.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
The European heatwave is set to continue. Lots of strong sunshine across Europe. Many temperatures just pushing into the low to mid-40s. This in particular across inland areas of Spain. Even parts of France are going to be pushing into the low 40s over the next few days. And eastern Mediterranean, we're widely going to see temperatures in the mid-40s. So the sunshine is set to be intense, and it's going to be continuing over the next few days, along with the hot temperatures.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays, I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, everybody. Right, let's bring you a very funny story in The Sun on Sunday today. Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves, cut costs with a little breakaway at a £49 a night caravan park where she has enjoyed, supposedly, pizza and a Mad Hatter's tea party. Miss Reeves stayed for one night with her family and paid for it herself. Wasn't that a relief there? She was at the Haven Kent Coast Holiday Park in All Hallows near Rochester. You know what? I'll bring my paddle in for this. Why not? Why not? Let's get your thoughts on this. Linda, is the Chancellor suffering from her own budget cuts now because the economy's so bad, everyone's having to go on a budget holiday?
Well, actually, although she is my fail for later on, I think she's behaved in an exemplary manner here by going to a nice, cheap overnight stay and a Mad Hatter's tea party.
Yeah.
Blameless.
Paul, is a woman of the people now?
Well, do you imagine what would have happened if she'd gone to some oligarch's yacht?
No, I totally
You know, there'd be an absolute
my point,
outrage, wasn't it? So good for her.
Yeah, I guess, Peter, are they trying to learn the lessons of the Labour Party of things like Alley where they stayed in these big penthouse suites and there's all these, you know, cash for holiday, cash for clothes scandal?
Not enough detail. Was she in a tent? Was she in a caravan? Was she in a motorhome?
Yeah.
Not enough detail. I can't make a judgment on those bare facts.
Right, I'll tell you what, Peter, I'm going to find out more, and I want to get your thoughts on this because I want to hear what you would you do? Would you go one of those holidays? You think?
No, I don't. I did canvas when I was a kid. I don't do it as an adult.
He's done it. All right. Okay. Love to hear it. Okay. Let's get on to the big weekend fails. I'm going to kick this off. Typical politics, but have a look at this.
Shut up when I'm talking.
I beg your pardon, Councillor.
When I'm talking, this is my time, not your time. When I talk, you shut up, okay?
Oh, point of order, man. Yes.
Why she's talking while I'm talking? Why she's taking from my time? You just keep your mouth shut when I'm talking.
Oh, yeah, it's all got a little bit feisty there. I think there's someone they could call, and I think this woman would be a pro at this. Jackie Weaver. Do you all remember Jackie Weaver?
Oh, yes.
You know, the local parish councillor who stood up to all those people having a go at her? I think that's who they need to call.
Sent them all off to the naughty step.
That's right. Linda, come on, you're next.
So
what have you got?
We've got Rachel Reeves here. And she is sounding off again. She's been out filming this week in her hard hat.
OK, you have a look?
Yeah, let's take a look now.
Conservatives have called for the Housing Minister to resign, having ended a tenancy and then charge an extra £700. It's not a very good look, is it?
I don't know the details, but Rushanara Ali seems to have done everything in accordance with the law, and I really don't understand why the Conservatives are calling for that.
Moments later, she resigned. Rushanara Ali.
Wrong. And get a hard hat that fits.
What is underneath that hat? That's what I want to know. Maybe it's the next budget. Paul, what have you got?
Mine is another politician, actually. So this is Rupert Lowe MP, the former Reform MP, who called in this terrible plight of some migrants he saw on a boat coming to this country and said that this is typical of the failure of the asylum system. And it turned out it was charity rowers raising money for a good cause. He needs to go to Specsavers.
When it lives in your head rent-free, perhaps. Peter, we're running out of time, so I want to come to you. What have you got for us?
Right, that story about the police telling the shopkeeper, Rob, in Wrexham, take down that sign that calls shoplifters scumbags, right? The person responsible, my fail, is the Chief Constable. Let's name these people. Ultimately, they're responsible. Amanda Blakeman, they were your people. What are you doing about it? You're to be held to account.
Well said, Peter. Fantastic stuff. All right, well, coming up, we have got Late Edition. More of tomorrow's bombshell front pages for you and some inside stories. We have loads more to talk about. You never know, maybe there might be more breaking news. We had loads this hour. So we will see you very soon. Join us just after your weather.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. So the main story is just how high temperatures are going to get over the next few days, particularly in the south, but we will have a bit of rain in the north at times, and it's all courtesy of this just wiggling weather front that's going to just brush the far north of the UK over the next 24 hours or so. But then look at those shades of red envelop the UK, so turning much hotter by Monday and Tuesday. Back to Saturday evening though, and most of the cloud is melting away, so it's going to turn into a dry night for most. Clear skies as well, so some patchy mist and fog perhaps developing in the countryside in the most prone rural spots, and maybe getting down into the mid-single figures also, so a little bit chilly for some of us first thing on Sunday morning. But across the north of Scotland, the showers will continue. It won't be quite as breezy as it was on Saturday, but there'll still be a few around on Sunday morning, mainly across the Northern Isles, so Shetland seeing the odd heavier one, a few drifting into the west coast of Scotland as well, but most of these lighter than they would have been overnight. Some sunshine first thing for Northern Ireland, eastern Scotland, many parts of northern England and Wales, dry and sunny as well. Any mist quickly disappearing, and then temperatures really rising pretty quickly in that strong August sunshine. So a beautiful, sunny and very warm day to come for many parts of Wales, England, and particularly eastern Scotland. Here we won't have quite the breeze that we saw on Saturday, so feeling quite a bit warmer, and temperatures into the low 20s potentially here. Quite a bit more in the way of cloud though developing across Northern Ireland through the afternoons, and patchy rain as well by the evening. But as I say, temperatures above average for the time of year, and highs of 28 Celsius in the southeast of England. That rain across Northern Ireland spreads to other parts of Scotland by Monday, so quite a damp picture across many northern parts of the UK through the day. Some rain off and on, heaviest and most persistent in northwest Scotland. Otherwise, though, further south, look at all this blue sky and sunshine, so some high-level cloud perhaps, but temperatures into the low 30s and perhaps even into the mid-30s very locally through Tuesday and perhaps Wednesday, so some hot weather on the way.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
We want to send some of those monthly financial stresses